Part 3, the ego, an evolutionary relic running the show. To understand how my life in Korea had become a feeding frenzy for validation, I need to explain what was actually driving the bus, my ego. And to understand the ego, we need to go back thousands of years to when it first evolved as humanity's survival mechanism. At birth and early infancy, we operate as our true nature, untouched by separation or self judgment, fully merged with the world and free from the ego's grip. There is no quote unquote I yet, just a symbiotic connection where self and other blur. Around age 1 or 2, the first cracks appear. The toddler starts to see, I am me, and you are not me. They grasp ownership, recognize their name as them, and notice feelings as their own distinct experience. Between 2 and 4, self awareness deepens. I want and I did. And recognize themselves in a mirror cements their identity perfectly. By preschool age, the ego matures fully, navigating social rules, approval, and comparison, crafting the early self story that shapes how we engage with the world. Evolutionarily speaking, the ego developed as our psychological immune system, creating boundaries between self and other, safe and dangerous, familiar and threatening. As DiLullo explains in Awake, It's Your Turn, the fear of helplessness is the most primal and deeply rooted psychological fear. It's tied to our basic survival instinct and sense of being a separate self that must maintain control. For our ancestors, this separation was literally life or death. You needed to know the difference between your tribe and the enemy, between safe shelter and predatory territory. But the ego that once kept us alive in a hostile world has become the very thing that's killing us in the modern world. DeLuca notes that mind identification is a process of mistaking thoughts, beliefs, and mental constructs for who you actually are, your true being. This creates a sense of being a separate, isolated entity, always at odds with life. It's the foundation of all psychological suffering. Period. Hard stop. My ego had evolved from a survival tool into a validation seeking monster. Every ad with my face, every fan who recognized me, every jealous glance from other foreigners only fed the illusion that external approval meant safety and survival. What once kept our ancestors alive, from saber-tooth tigers, was now tricking me into thinking I needed endless applause just to stay afloat mentally. In Korea, I was the golden foreign boy, a walking billboard for Western dreams in an Eastern paradise, and had everything our culture tells us we should want to be: fame, women, admired, living the kind of life that makes people screenshot my Instagram stories and quietly wonder what they're doing wrong with their existence. Which is exactly why I'm the perfect person to tell you how completely backwards that whole pursuit actually is. See, while everyone was busy telling me how lucky I was slowly poisoning myself with the most addictive drug known to modern civilization: external validation. And like any good addict, I needed bigger and bigger hits to feel normal. Each hit felt incredible for about 30 seconds, and then I needed more. But here's the thing about chasing external validation that nobody mentions in all those follow your dreams Instagram posts. The more you get, the more you realize it's not actually filling the hole you thought it would fill. Buddhism likens humans to hungry ghosts, beings cursed with enormous bellies and mouths the size of pinholes. They're eternally starving, desperate to fill themselves, but their tiny mouths make it impossible. Surrounded by plenty, they remain forever unsatisfied, a haunting metaphor for human craving and endless hunger that plagues 99.99% of the population. I had the bloated belly of perceived success, but the pinhole mouth of an ego that could never actually digest any of it. Every magazine cover, every commercial deal, every moment of adoration just passed right through me, leaving me as empty as before, but somehow even hungrier. I spent years convinced the problem was that I just wasn't famous enough yet. If I could get just one more commercial, bigger characters on shows, one more screaming fan, then I'd finally be complete. This is what psychologists call the hedonic treadmill, but I prefer to think of it as the ego's perpetual dick measuring contest with the universe. It was all an illusion, just ideas, a false sense of control that didn't exist. We will cover the illusion of control more in depth in a later chapter. I was continuously and without noticing it, taking myself and my experience to be defined by thoughts and concepts about my semi-celebrity status. But that would all come crashing down. complete with handcuffs and a one-way ticket out of paradise.